Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Justine, and I'm an intuitive healer. And I talk about lots of topics that have to do with healing our subconscious, and autism. So I've been talking a lot about autistic things recently, just because, I learned that I was autistic. It's going to be a year next month, and so I've been talking more about those things, just as I've been figuring out things about myself and exploring things. And so I find it helpful to talk about it and share about it. Obviously, as we already know, this becomes like our special interest once we discover all this stuff. So if you're new here, thanks for being here. So officially reached 1,000 1,000 views on one of my videos, which is great. That's like the most views I've had on a video like ever. So that's really cool. So thanks for everyone for being here. So if you can like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate that so much. So welcome. Today's video is going to be about autistic people and our strong sense of justice. So people, what is it that they say? They say that like autistic people tend to have like very strong sense of justice and moral compass, and also like this high regards for things to be like right and correct and the rules and things like that. And because of that, oftentimes you may take on roles in your groups, in your society, or in your workplaces and things like that, that help you to be in a position to help others, to be the person to assist others. If that was you, raise your hand, because that was definitely me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for me in my life and how that will show up for other people. And I'm also going to talk about why we're not thriving more than what we should be, because ideally we would be perfect for these types of roles and things. So let me start off the beginning. So since I can remember, I always was part of the committees and things that helped others, whether it was like being the fire warden when I worked at the hospital as a clinical research assistant, and I was doing the health and safety stuff there, and then I went on to do health and safety when I worked at my other job. I was also the union steward, and then I went on to become the vice president there. And I had many roles where I helped other people, and that I ensured that things were safe and also that things were just and fair in our workplaces. I always take on that role in my groups and things like that. I've always been the person who is fair. Like, I never side with people just because like you're my friend. If you're wrong, then I cannot, like, I won't fully like support you and be like, well, that other person. And I feel like a lot of people sometimes don't like that. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to support you if you did something blatantly wrong. And this is something very common with autistic people, because we have a very strong sense of justice and what's fair and what's right and things like that. So we really want these rules and standards to be followed. We want them to be maintained and for them to be regulated and stuff like that, to ensure the safety of everyone, to ensure that everyone's being treated fairly and just, and all of that stuff. We love that kind of stuff. As I mean, if you're not like that, it's okay. It doesn't mean that it has to be like mandatory, but a lot of autistic people do fall in this category. Now, this doesn't mean that you follow all rules blindly. I want to say, because that's a different thing, because oftentimes, especially because of our PDA, sometimes if you're told to do something, especially when there's no justification for it, or you feel like that it's a false thing to be following, or if you think that it's not actually fair or just, then you will actually oppose it very strongly, and you're likely to be very defiant in situations like that. So keep that in mind when you're like doing like rules and things like that. As much as we love the rules, if the rules are not actually something that makes sense to you, and that they don't actually qualify as something that is fair and just, then, like I said, you will be likely to strongly oppose it, like to a point where you will be very defiant against it. And then combine that with your PDA. So yeah, We can be like a force to be reckoned with when people try to like enforce things and infringe on people's rights and things like that. And we might be very vocal about that. So, okay, now, why do they not actually want people like us in workplaces? You think like that we would be the perfect candidates to put in these roles because of our ability to see things and notice every single detail. We have the ability to perceive um, pretty much every possible outcome. So if, let's just say if it's a safety issue, for instance, you will look and be like, we can't have that here because this will happen in those instances or whatever. So we can foresee that because of the way our brains work and the fact that we can kind of predict the outcome of something. And so as a result of that, we are excellent for these types of roles when we are in leadership roles that have to do with keeping things just and fair and safe for other people. We are very excellent in these roles. However, they don't want people like that in workplaces because at the end of the day, the way our society runs right now is and this is money, by the way, I just want to be clear. And unfortunately, employees are the bottom line for these huge corporations right now. And so what ends up happening is that a lot of times things that will benefit the whole of the society or the people or making things fair for everyone or whatever that looks like, it would be very time consuming. Ultimately, that means more money that the company needs to invest in these things. More time equals more money. More labor equals more money. More anything equals more money. And let's face it, I've been in the business for so many years and I know that they will cut corners any chance they get. And they will do this to save money, to save resources, and all of that stuff. So we are well aware that even though all these corporations hide behind all these fake ideologies and vision statements or whatever you want to call them and say that they do this and they care about this and they maintain this and this and this, and yes, I stand by this. I promise you that they are not doing any of that. They might be doing the bare minimum, but they have cut so many corners around that. And there are like pockets of like, I guess, negligence, for lack of a better word, in so many areas due to the fact that they will not invest and they will like gloss over things because they do not want to spend their resources and money and things like that. And so sometimes, mostly always, when people like us are in these roles, we tend to be a little bit of an annoyance for them because of our keen eye for detail and the way that we are able to spot these things so well every time, and our prediction of things and our stubbornness in making sure that these things are done correctly, because we really like things to be done correctly. And so they don't like that. So ideally, people like us would be perfect for these types of roles. We would thrive in these roles. We would enjoy them because it totally is like, using all of our abilities and stuff, and it's great. But they don't really want that. They don't want that. They want someone who is the same as them, who will be negligent as well, who will do enough to make it look like they're doing something, and just to say that they're doing something, and then they can put some half-ass report and say like it's done. Has this been something you've experienced? Because this is definitely not just me, and this is something like I've had a discussion about this on this other neurodivergent. It was for late diagnosed adults, and we were talking about this, and I brought up that point and we ended up having a discussion about it, and this seems to be like a very common theme. So I'm curious what your experience with that has been. Like, I'm curious if you've been shut down or ignored or passed over or made to look like you were the problem when you were really just doing the best at that job, at that role, and what was actually needed. And this is the part about things that make it confusing for us. because especially when you have a role that says, we need you to be this way, we really want you to enforce this, A, B, and C. And then we do that and we do it better than anyone else can because of how we are and our attention to detail and the way we're able to predict everything that can happen. We are so good at that role. And so we do that like perfectly. And then it's not okay. And so we feel confused, we feel annoyed, we feel upset, disappointed, and put whatever other word and term you want in this section. But it's confusing because you're like, oh, we want you to be this role, and then you do the role like immaculately, and then they're not very happy about you doing the role like that. And so that's confusing because it goes back to that whole like, people, neurotypicals, not meaning what they say and not doing what they mean, and et cetera, et cetera. And so anyways, that is my whole social justice thing that I wanted to talk about. And I think it's something that is worth having a discussion, because this is why, if you watch my other video about how society is not created for neurodivergent people, and how we are the visionaries and the revolutionaries, and how we're the ones who will create something new because of our ability to how we do things and see things, and our access to information, just like from our like the way we can access information. And this is why it's important for us to start creating our own things and to empower ourselves, to heal, to create community amongst each other, to empower one another. And so we can feel validated and know our own strengths and things, and not, not to feel like we're, it's this weird thing where it's like, oh, they're the autistic ones and they're the ones that there's something wrong with. But is it really that way? Because I feel like that's wrong. So anyways, that's my conversation for today. I'm curious what your experience with this is. We're always very passionate about things like that. And I've been an activist and have gone to protests and marches. Like I've reined it back, like, since I've done a lot of healing and brought my peace, especially because I'm in burnout really badly. But for like over 20 years, I've been an activist and doing all these things. We lend our voice to multiple things: our social justice, our empathy, our our sense of what is right and things like that. It feels very, very strong, and we have this like deep empathy for things. And it's the reason why I have compassion for even people that do wrong. It's the reason that I'm vegan. It's the reason that I lend my voice to a lot of platforms to help with multiple things. But I'm curious what your experience has been with this. Do you feel that this resonates with you? Do you feel like you're also on this page? And I'm curious what your experience has been in your own groups and maybe workplace and things like that for yourself. If someone has had a positive experience, I would love to hear that. That'd be awesome. But, just share your experience with all that and let's have a discussion about that. Anyways, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Like this video and subscribe if you can, and we will, I guess, talk later. Right now I'm going to try to do 2 videos a week if I can do that. I have a lot of stuff going on. I have like my own practice and see people like in person too. So, but anyways, take care of yourself and make sure you prioritize your rest. It's really important. And thank you for being here. Take care and have a good one.